Yes, everybody, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur. This is going to be your fan call-in show for all of the members of the channel, very generous members that will be discussing, of course, what happened over the weekend with Manchester United, looking a bit forward as well towards the next games, the North London Derby. It's going to start heating up in December and late November, so do strap in, everybody. It's, I think, the last real international break where we do get a break from Spurs, and it will be all Spurs from here on out for the rest of the year. It's going to look like. So get ready, everybody, get strapped in, try to de-stress while you can before we descend into the madness. We're going to be talking about, of course, Thomas Frank's rotation, the team selection that he's been going with in these games. I think that's the main talking point from the Manchester United game. Why does he keep changing and chopping and changing the starting forward lineup? Did he really need to? I think is one of the bigger questions as well from that Manchester United game. I can understand, he has these issues with injuries and trying to prevent maybe further fatigue, but nothing's really, stopping the injuries at the minute. I think he even has still to this day more injuries than Postecoglou literally ever did during his time. And despite how much he's changing up the lineups, it doesn't seem to be stopping the injuries. Maybe we're just eternally cursed. We'll also talk as well about, I think there was a period when Xavi Simons was subbed off for Matisse Tell. Matisse Tell did go on to score the winner. Fair play to him, but there were heavy, heavy boos, according to Alistair Gold, for that. I wasn't able to pick that up when we were doing the watch along for whatever reason. I couldn't hear it, but when I was listening to Alistair Gold's video, he was saying there was some heavy boos when Xavi Simons was subbed off, which kind of made me bring up the question of when Ange Postecoglou did that and the Chelsea away game, that almost was kind of signal for the sign of the end because he was cupping his ears to the fan base. You saw Nuno, right, was heavily booed as well for ticking off Lucas Moura, which I think was one of his last games in as a Spurs manager. Conte as well, right, was booed, I believe, in the AC Milan game, as well as some other games for bringing on Davinson Sanchez off of the bench. So I'm just wondering if that's a bad sign with maybe a possible rift between the manager and the fan base. But maybe I'm going too far.
Well,
So feel free to, come in on it.
I think the more concerning for me is that the boos just seem to be coming for anything now. You go back to Jamie Carragher when he broke down Monday Night Football. Spurs fans started booing when the players were going backwards with the ball. He highlighted that. He says, "Listen to the boos ringing out here," and I think it was Papa Matsar going backwards with the ball or something like that. And, it seems like it's becoming more and more common. Fans' patience is becoming less and less with what they're seeing currently. But I don't think I think it's important to highlight. I don't think it's just built up over the course of what they're seeing this season or what they're watching this season. I think it's many years of pent up frustration and anger and stuff. And many Spurs fans probably feel like they're walking into another similar season and that nothing really has changed too much. And that's where I think you're seeing it sort of carry on into this season, which you would argue maybe not necessarily fair on Thomas Frank, but shows the magnitude of the Tottenham job, right?
Well, actually, give some plaudits to Dave then, please, in the chat for being far more balanced about it than I am. I think that's actually some very needed context, so fair play to there. Richarlison and Johnson, this is a question Dave has kind of been bringing up, so I'm curious what other people, apart from me, have to say about this. Dave has been bringing up a fair point. I'm not sure if I totally agree with it, but then again, I didn't have the best of answers towards it, where Dave has been saying that Richarlison and Johnson have been struggling under Thomas Frank, but Ange Postecoglou was able to get the most out of them and able to get them to score goals, regardless of how poor we might think they are. Is Thomas Frank doing enough to get the most out of them when he really only has them to pick from really at the minute, right? It's just a situation that he finds himself in. Should he start thinking about Dane Scarlett time, maybe ahead of these upcoming games? I know Rain Man, who we have in the back end, will probably have an answer on that one. He's been, vouching for the guy to get an inclusion. And we'll also be talking about North London Derby in general, who should start up top in that game. What sort of formation should he be going with? And then Dave as well has included a nice little question that I did see in TalkSport about potential Ivan Toney links or any other striker, maybe like a Vlahovic, to come in January. Dave, before we bring in these fine people, anything to say?
No, not really, to be honest with you. Just hear what people have to say and, what their thoughts are after the United game. Do they see it as maybe a point gained and sort of still a work in progress, or people starting to become sort of alarmed and concerned with what we're watching and stuff? I think you raised some fair questions about the starting lineup. I think I raised fair questions about, Johnson and Richarlison. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to use them to make my point because they're not exactly quality players, but you would argue the system last year was set up to get the most out of them, And I just don't see the system getting the most out of any one of our front players, which I think is sort of where I raised the question. But look, I mean, it'd be interesting to hear what fans have to think about. I know Tyler said earlier on he wants to come on and call me out. So Tyler, if you're listening, don't be a chicken. Don't do what other people do and text someone and say you disagree with me and not actually, get your points across. So make sure you come on if you have a point to say, and let's get going, Jack. No
Let's
doubt,
get going.
Stay for another hour and a half.
Yeah, well, there we go. I'm just going to say hello to some people very quickly. Really appreciate you guys that are joining us. Queen Ellie, Stefan Blois is probably going to come on at some point too. Hopefully to have you back, Stefan. Thought you were really great last time out. Rayman, of course, is in the chat as well. MKP, Binny Guy, K32, big up to you, Kieran, saying hope everyone is well. We also have William Webb, big up to you, William Webb, and DB saying no riff, Jack, just social media minority. It's probably fair, DB, but we all know that the fans that come on here, fans that do kind of, I think, participate in maybe the YouTube sphere are sort of the fans that are almost thinking about Tottenham Hotspur 24/7, type of people, the people that are truly obsessed. And of course, everybody, we don't represent, I think, everybody's opinion, but we do have plenty of people that do come on here that have very different opinions to Dave or I. And Dave and I don't even always share the same opinion. So I'd like to say that we're not a bubble of any kind.
But what I will say is I understand what DB is saying, but at the end of the day, the noise made on social media are Spurs fans. And I'm not being funny, but it's not just being made on social media. Fans are booing inside the stadium currently. So, I'd say it's a reflection, it's not just the social media sort of noise. Anyway, Jacko, where are you?
Evening, Dave and Jack missed the Premier League over the international break, even though we're so up and down. It's a long season, but have the January window to really support and improve the club. I'd say, Dan Coyce, this is your last opportunity to really de-stress over the international break before we get things going. Good to see you as well, Wayne Bonner. Really appreciate you. Tartan Spurs up in Scotland. Tyler, hopefully get to see him come on at some point as well. And then Don Anthony there. But let's bring in the people, see what they have to say. Bring in Rain Man, Ryan, Jerome, Mr. Larson, Mia, the General, and he's got his camera on. Big up to you, Chris. Good to have you with us. Nice kit as well there, sir. The big question today is about the team rotation and whether Thomas Frank needed to basically change up the lineup. I'm not sure who I go to first, Dave. If you would like to maybe pick who should maybe come in on this first, anybody that you feel like can get us started on this, because that is, I think, going to be one of the main talking points today is really, did he need to change the starting lineup?
Do you know what? I would say let's go with Rain or Jerome. They're sort of very different in their opinions, but they're not afraid to sort of assert them across, and we'll take it off the back of that. So who wants to start between you two?
Let's restart. I want to hear what he wants.
Start off, Rain Man.
Let's not get personal here now.
I was pointing at Mia. Very diplomatic of you. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm in a minority. Actually, do you know what? I don't care. I don't care. I was obviously there on Saturday. I personally was very disappointed with the booing. I completely agree with Dave. It's years and years of built up frustration that now people have, no patience. Yeah, the well of patience is completely dry. So as soon as something happens that people don't like, it translates into negative emotions. And I suspect, and I'm there, so I experience it. I suspect it's a big reason why we're not as successful at home as we are away. I really do, because I'm very, very clear that in life, positivity gets positive results and negativity gets negative results.
Can I ask a question real quick? Sorry.
I've seen it so many times. If you're negative, it's a very clear. Sorry, Daniel. Just 1 second.
Yeah.
If you've got a stream that you need to jump over, if you run at it and you're thinking, I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to make it, you probably won't make it. If you run at it and you think, I'm going to jump it, I'm going to jump it, I'm going to jump it, you've actually got much more chance. It's a well-known fact. I think our negativity, I do have other things to say, by the way. I do think our negativity in the stadium is translating down to the players. And I think we're too quick to be negative. So I've got more to say, but I'll quite happily let Daniel.
No, I mean, it's not. I was just going to really quick question. The reason why now fans have so little patience because Levy's gone now, and now people, since Levy's gone, people expect things to be so quickly changed because a big problem is gone now. So people's like, well, things need to change quick now because
there's nowhere else to focus the emotion.
Yeah, I miss blaming Levy, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was a lot easier.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Where's our anti-Levy chants? I wasn't clear with the booing what the booing was actually for.
For the substitution.
Well, yeah, for the substitution. I wasn't sure whether it was because people have suddenly decided that Xavi is good and they wanted him to stay on, or whether people saw that Tell was coming on and Tell isn't somebody they want to come. I wasn't sure, or whether maybe it was both. Maybe it was.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it could have been
I
both.
wasn't sure, but because for me, like these are the sorts of decisions that a manager has to make.
I think it was mostly Ray. I think it was because I think Xavi was coming off. Richarlison was still on because if you heard the groan, because there was a loud groan when Richarlison had the ball and he made that pass that went to no one. He literally just passed it to a Manchester United player. That groan in that stadium, everybody was so frustrated. I could even hear that on TV. It's like everybody just got frustrated with the guy. So I guess what happened is as soon as Xavi came off and he was still on the pitch, then the loud boo was just really bad. I think it was just like the frustration of the whole crowd because we were still down. We were still 1-0 down and we were not creating anything, literally. So that's when we did the change.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you because Richarlison, like he was the darling of the stadium for the first couple of games, and he's fallen off a cliff. I mean, it's just worse than he's ever been. It's really, really awful. And even with the goal, I was convinced it was offside. I was absolutely convinced he was offside when I was about to explode. Why touch it? Frank has to make decisions, and the decisions are not always is not always about the best players. Sometimes the decisions, and even if you play football games on computers, you know this. You can't keep a player on at 50%. Who's your best player? It isn't going to work, right? And Frank has to make these decisions. And I don't feel like fans always have the right amount of information or have the right or understand the right consequences to understand the decisions that the manager is making. So not only is taking Xavi off, Xavi was gassed. I agree with Jack. He was absolutely isolated, and that is a problem. It is a problem with the way that we're playing that Xavi is isolated, and he was gassed. He needed we needed extra legs to come on. The fact that Muani is now injured is just absolutely mind blowing, right? It means that Richarlison is now our only striker. I'm not even going to. I was trolling about Scarlett. I mean, now it's becoming a thing, but not playing your doggy and Odebear to start. Frank is quite clearly trying to ease your doggy back, and again, I'm going to go back to it. At the start of the season, everyone was lauding Spence. I was actually one of the first people to go, actually, I think this Spence on the left-hand side is a problem because he hasn't got a left foot. And defensively, how brilliant he is. So I think ultimately it always comes down, it's all coming down to just one thing. Frank doesn't have the players to do what he needs to do, what we need him to do. and he's trying his best. That's my take.
Yeah.
Well,
Look,
yeah, go ahead,
I
Chris.
agree with. Sorry, I agree with what Ray's saying. It's like, yeah, he doesn't have the players to get the best out of them, but at the same time, that game against Manchester United, I know he's scared, like literally, to put those players on just in case of injuries and things like that. But we are going on an international break. They will have time to rest. So not starting Rudeberg and not starting Udogi, that was a mistake because we can see how we went at Manchester United on that left hand side. They were really poor there. And Mazraoui, before they took him off, that would have been the perfect time to literally go at Manchester United because they are that bad on that left hand side. Because all our goal came from there, and every single time it was Odegaard that was like just going at them. So that first half, literally, if you look at that first half, and on the booing as well, the start of the game, you could hear the crowd like really loud. They were behind the team really, really loud. And as soon as that game started, and we feel like nothing is happening, nothing at all. We are not attacking. We're not doing anything. The sound just started dying like fast. And then out of the blue, Manchester United score. I mean, like, that was the most pathetic goal I could have seen this season. It was so bad. That team was not doing anything, and out of the blue, we just score like a free header. I was like, what the hell is this? And after that, I thought, okay, maybe the team is going to wake up. They're going to do something. Until the whistle for the first half, nothing happened. Nothing. We did nothing. It's the same pattern of play. And I'm sure Daniel is going to come and tell you all how frustrated he is by backwards, sideways, backwards, sideways, backwards, sideways. And I'm the same as Daniel. I'm very frustrated with this. It's safe. We are going too safe for the moment. This Manchester United team, we should have gone at them in the first half, already got 2-3 goals up already because we could have done that already. And then in the second half, rest the players that needed to rest and go defensive. I would not have complained anything about that. But going 1-0 down to this team, that was embarrassing. That team is bad. It's a really bad team. But at the same time, I can't say any better, but we are better than them. We are as bad as them. That's how bad we are. And we are in the top side of the league right now. Is it really where we should be for the moment? The way we are playing? It's really concerning. It's really concerning. But with the booing, I don't like booing. But I would say in this situation, I understand the frustration. I understand it because after what we saw against Copenhagen, we say, be brave. They were brave. 10 men, they just went at them. The way they went at them was just amazing. That fourth goal against Copenhagen was absolute beauty because that was one pass. They went fast, one pass football, and then bang, goal. That was what I was wanted to see. That is what I want to see every single week. But for some reason, as soon as we start in the league, we just go, no, we are going to go like safe. We're going to play safe every time. Safe, backwards, sideways. And it's like, and I understand the frustration of the fans. It's like, what's going on with this team? We saw them playing perfect football just recently in the Champions League. And now look at them. They're not doing anything. So it's at least I understand the frustration and I understand the booing because it's definitely fans getting extremely frustrated with this team that's like going up and then down and up and down. It's the same thing we saw on the end as well. Up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. There's no consistency. So yeah, this is what my take on it, but I'm pretty sure Daniel's going to tell you more about how frustrated he is anyway, so I'll let him talk.
Well, passing on the baton to Daniel. Go ahead.
Oh, jeez. Shit. No, to be fair, I wanted Thomas Frank in this club, so I'm not going to be, and I still want him here. I'm not Frank out at all, but I'm a little bit disappointed in just. I wish he was more braver in the way we play, and I don't know if that's the players or him, but it's definitely a 50-50 or something in that range fault. But there's got to be something in training or something where why can't our players? There's no vision. There's just no vision. And Peter Porter is probably the best passer in this team right now. And when he has a bad game, I feel like just the team has bad playing because he's the best passer. He can cross the ball. He can get a long ball, short ball, take a corner. But against Man United, he was absolutely fucking embarrassing. And so the whole team was embarrassing. But yeah,
pretty fair from you there, Daniel. Especially if you're going to say that you were kind of a fan of Frank. I'm there as well. Where I didn't necessarily want Frank, but I'm kind of there as well. Where I think he does take a lot of responsibility for us not being brave enough. But Davis heard me also complain a million times about. I also just don't think the players are really good enough at all. So you're kind of in a hard place there. But I think that's fair from you.
I'm also going to say, because I knew we're not that good, I know we're not good. And I've said that for the longest time. We finished 17 last season. I can't say that all of a sudden we're going to be a top 4 or 6 team all of a sudden. But I can still, when I see a game, especially against Man United and Chelsea, and I see that, I'm like, what the fuck? You just want to strangle someone, You still have to have that. You have that passion, You want to still, but yeah. So it's hard because I still know.
I understand what Daniel's saying. I'm listening to the last 3 lads there, and I get what they're saying, that we don't have a perfect squad. We've got a better squad than Brentford do, And at the end of the day, Frank was brought in to change the way we were last season because many believed we had a better squad than what they were currently showing on the football pitch. Now all of a sudden we have a bad squad. We have this. Some of it is down to the pragmatic way Frank is approaching games, especially at home. Some of it is down to, chopping and changing his lineup consistently. There's no consistency with what he's putting out there on the pitch, and their players aren't given a chance to build up that relationship and stuff like that. And that's why you're seeing in these bigger games we're falling under, because the players aren't fighting for each other. They don't know, they don't have them relationships, where the outballs are, the link up plays and stuff like that. And I think, I think Daniel made a fair analysis there. I do think, some of it is down to Thomas Frank. Yes, some of it is down to not having a perfect squad. Don't get me wrong. And, not maybe doing a bit of extra business in the summer transfer window, but some of it is down to Thomas Frank. Fair analysis, Daniel.
And maybe we'll pass it on to Mia. Did he really need to change it up, Mia? That's kind of my question, because Copenhagen game built a bit of confidence there. I felt like Odegaard didn't need to be dropped. That's the big one, I think.
Yeah, I did actually put him, if it was when I did my predicted lineup, I would have played Odegaard and I would have played Udogie, because I know he's trying to get Udogie back into fitness, but I think that him going forward and him playing on on that side and then letting Spence play on the correct side for his foot, I think feels like his stronger foot is better. And I think that gives us more impetus. And it felt like that he was too worried about what they were going to do to us, instead of us thinking stuff that we're going to be at home and I want us to be more attacking. Like, it felt like he was a bit concerned or thinking about that a bit too much. And when we're at home, I said this, I did say it. I don't know if anyone listened, but when we first got Frank, I said we cannot at home play the way he plays because fans will not put up with it. And it's true. They don't want to see it. And I am not a proponent. I'm not a person that thinks that booing is good. I don't want to boo anybody, and I have never booed anyone because I wouldn't. That's just me personally. Everybody's got their own preference and their own choice. But if someone come and booed you for being bad at, if you do something wrong in your job, I'm sure that wouldn't motivate you. That's my theory. To me, if you want to boo, I understand, because people obviously, like I say, have got a right to do that. But for me personally, I just don't think it really motivates the players, because they're tentative because they know they're going to get booed. And I think that obviously that's not a good thing to do. And what happens, it's a knock-on effect because they need to play good football and then we won't boo. And then what happens is that we boo because they're not playing good football because we get that vibe, oh, here we go again. So it's like a kind of knock-on effect, like it goes hand in hand. So whilst I do think that it's not productive to do so. I obviously can't sit here and say or tell people how they should or shouldn't support their club because I've always said that you should never tell people what they should and shouldn't do when they go and watch matches. They pay to go and watch it. So for me, I wouldn't necessarily boo, but like I say, I don't think it's really productive. But yeah, I don't think he needed to change at all. Like to me, I think that was a confident team building a bit of momentum and getting to know each other. And I said this again a few weeks ago. I said we need to have some consistency to build up relationships in the team, and we just don't seem to be doing that. We need to just be a little bit consistent. And now we've got Muani out. Nobody's mentioned this. What happened? Like, did no one on VAR even look at that? They didn't even really show a replay of it. Like that must have been pretty bad for him to get a broken jaw, that he got elbowed. Like that's a pretty nasty elbow to be going into someone. Like you don't just knock it a little bit to get a broken one. I think that was obviously.
I'm amazed he played.
No, that was an accident. No, it was less. No,
but how did he play? How did he?
Accident.
It's like Vicario when he had that broken ankle or something. He played for like
Yeah,
minutes, and I'm amazed.
It's crazy that he played, but anyway, yeah, we obviously he's now injured, which is a shame that he is injured because I thought that he started to show a bit what he's got. Like I like Muani. I think that he holds up the ball really well, and I think that he's been doing some good stuff. But obviously now we've got to change it again. So what I think is that we need to have a bit of consistency in the Premier League, especially when we're at home. When we're at home, we cannot keep playing like we're afraid. He can't keep setting us up like he's afraid. Like we need to have a bit of like cojones about us and think we're at home and make it a bit of a fortress. And we just don't. We just look scared and we don't attack. When Xavi was in space, he's looking around. Nobody's bloody there. No one's there to support him.
Mm-hmm.
We get into the box and nobody's there, Jack. Nobody is in the bloody box. Why is there no one in the box to attack? And that has to be that has to be a tactic. With Frank, I just don't think that. I think he's worrying. So he's telling them not to maybe all rush into the box because he doesn't want to be able to be countered on. I think that's what it is. And I understand that we need to do better. We need to do better defensively than we did last season. But to be so afraid to attack, that's not any good either. That's not going to win you games either, is it?
I'm split on that because I agree. I think there have been so many times when we don't have enough players forward, and that could be down to the instructions from the manager. But then there was also that occasion when Xavi Simons received it on a counterattack, and that clip was all over Twitter. Brendan Johnson is like jogging behind, Joao Palhinha, like he's just walking when there's clearly like a right side of the pitch that's just completely void, ready for someone to make a run for. And if you also are a forward, surely you're hungry enough to make that sprint to try to get down the sides there. So I agree with you, man. I think there are plenty of times.
Well, Frank put him out there, though, Jack. He didn't have to put Johnson out there. He could have played Udebur. He chose to put him out there at the end of the day. It's no secret that Johnson, lacks energy up and down that wing, but he chose to play him at the end of the day.
So he could have gone Richarlison, Kolo Muani, Odegaard, you're thinking? Instead of
we can sit here and say Johnson's lazy, but we've known that. We've seen that on the previous regimes. At the end of the day, Frank selected him to go out there knowing that.
Who else has he got? I
just said he could have played Udebur.
Udebur was playing on the other side. Udebur was on the pitch.
Udebur was on the bench.
We're talking about Copenhagen.
No, we're talking about
the Manchester United game.
Man United.
He should have played Udebur on the left.
We come back to the, can all these players? We're expecting all these players to play twice a week. And Frank,
they're athletes.
Frank very well have data that we don't have that's telling him they can't play 2 games a week right now.
Players have played twice
and
a week.
There's another thing about Odegaard.
Yeah, but
at the start of the season, Sarr was the player of the month. Sarr had to play every single game. And then Sarr dropped off. And then it was Bergvall. Bergvall has to start every single game. And now people are saying Odegaard has to start every single game. Why does he have to start every single game? Because he's our only bloody left winger. That's why. The guy started 3 games. He's got 1 assist. And people are talking about his You know, he's like the next coming.
But that's not bad. That's not what we mean, Ray. What we are saying is when Odegaard came on, we were braver because he went at them. He went at them in that game. He actually went at the players. When we had Richarlison there, Richarlison just did nothing. He literally just stopped, and every time it was just frustrating with him. So all we're saying is, if he started that game, if we had Odegaard starting that game, and he did play the way he did, we would have been up like in the score. We would have been probably 1-1 or 2-1 up.
Rome, you do this a lot, mate. You do this a lot. You say something would have happened if we'd done this. And there's no facts that say that
the fact is, what's the second half?
That we would have had a different result. There's no facts that say that, right? That's completely.
But just watch the second half.
It's not facts.
That's what I'm saying.
The reality is that Odegaard did come on and change the game. Frank brought Odegaard on, and Odegaard changed the game. Frank made a positive change that changed the game, and yet Frank is the one who's getting it in the neck for not starting Odegaard.
If he would have started him, then we wouldn't have that problem, would we? Because he would have been good from the start. If he came on and was good, and then if he was started, he would have been better from the start. That makes zero sense what you're saying.
I understand. I think the point Rain is trying to get across, where it's sort of like, you know, there's no guarantee that if Odegaard did start, you know, that we would have looked any better from the off and stuff. I get that point, right? However, when you have players that are struggling across that front line for one reason or the other, wherever people decide to put the blame, if a player has shown the game before that he's done well, you start him in the next game. You build off the back of that confidence. What you don't do is take him out the lineup. He took Papamata Sarr out the lineup. Now he's killed his confidence to a certain degree. You know, that you don't do that. At the end of the day, if your team is struggling, you're trying to find rhythm, you play players that have produced in the last game at the end of the day. You know, this notion that players can't play 2 games a week. I'm sorry, I grew up watching football, and a lot of players play 2 games a week. You know, I think we're just making an excuse for the over rotation of Thomas Frank, because many people
every week
rotation, you know, this season. But there's a way of doing it. Like, he doesn't have to make rotations to the lineup every game. He has 5 subs available. He can make them from 60 minutes onwards, for instance, and stuff like that, if he wants to rest players and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, people are calling for rotation and rest so that players aren't getting injured. The reality is, it's a flawed ideology. We have more injuries than what we had last season, so it's not exactly protecting the players the way people think. At the end of the day, what matters about in football is winning games. We're not doing that right now, and there's a number of reasons why.
Look, we're talking about Odegaard, right? I was going to say about Odegaard. The fundamental problem that we've got is that we've got a small splattering of very good players like Kudus, who I think we ran to the ground. But then we've got a splattering of not good enough players like Johnson, right, who is now starting. And actually, I would say he's clearly being coached. He's clearly getting better. But then we've got this underlayer of players like Sarr, Gray, who again was flavour of the month, has to start 8. Not that long ago, Odegaard, Bergvall, who look good in patches, and everybody says, you know, oh, they have to start. The problem with these players is that they're young, and you'll get one consistent thing with young players, and that's inconsistency. You'll get a couple of good games and a couple of bad games because they're learning, right? They're learning, they're gaining experience, they're making mistakes, learning from those mistakes. A player who's 24, 25 has already made those mistakes, has already learned, and he's already built up that experience. It's very, very rare that you get a player out the womb like Wayne Rooney. Most of them gain experience through 20, 22, 23 before they hit their prime years. Odegaard, Sarr, Gray, Bergvall, all these players are in that period. So we just have to accept that this is the position our squad is in, and that's my position.
But Chris, you've been very patient. We probably need to get you in here.
Yeah.
Well, for me, the Frank needs to Find his strongest 11 and stick with it. The chopping and changing ain't doing the team any good. In fact, it's making us on some games worse than what we were. Look, Man United, I didn't think we were that great at all. Copenhagen, if he would start that same team that he did against Copenhagen, I think we would have killed Man United off that game. But it's obviously it's Frank's decision what you're going to do. But in my opinion, he just needs to find his strongest 11 and keep it as that. If Alderbert's in that strongest 11, keep him in there. Don't bring Johnson in because clearly Johnson's lazy and he's just not good enough.
The thing is about Johnson, though, we're saying he's lazy and everything. He was our top scorer last season. You guys understand that? He's something.
Jerome, can I stop you? Jerome, let's just stop there.
Yeah.
Can I say something? Right now, Johnson may have been our best player last season, but what happened last season, it's irrelevant whether he's the best top goal scorer or not. This we're not talking about last season, we're talking about this season. This season, he's showing himself just to be not willing to run, not willing to do anything. He was jogging. I was like watching the Man United game, and I was scratching my head. I'm like, we're attacking. Why is he jogging? Why is he not running?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're an attacker, you're gonna run, and you're gonna run for that ball to make sure you're in that box. And he's just jogging, and I'm like, you're supposed to be an attacker. What are you doing?
It's the same. I could say this.
It is fake jogging that does my head in. It's when he does this. The little, and it's like it's barely walking pace.
And you know what? Great, right? Look, to me, Rainier, it's like this. Yeah, if I see a player jogging, they ain't trying for the team, so they shouldn't have been on the pitch in the first place if they're not trying for the team.
That jogging motion he does reminds me of like a Teletubby or something, running around like his.
Jack,
like,
he shouldn't. Jack, if he's not prepared to run for the team, he shouldn't be on the pitch. Simple as that.
I wonder where he finished in the when John. What was it? Those like initial run tests. Those beep tests that they sort of did in the initial stage of the season. I know they said Solanke, a few of those guys, Sarr finished really high up. I think Archie Gray did really well or something like that. I'm very curious where Johnson actually ranked on those. I imagine he probably didn't finish them. But let's go to Rhino and then go ahead, Chris.
He might have been on the golf. He might have been on the golf course.
Brian, you've been very patient, sir. I mean, the big question, Ryan, is just he got the starting lineup wrong. Some people agree, some people disagree.
Look, this is what I'm not in the mood for yelling tonight, so I'm just going to say this exactly how I see it. No kind of beating around the bush or anything. This is what happens when Jerome thinks that finishing 17th, right, and winning a trophy is the best thing since sliced bread, right? Now, the problem is you don't get the prize money for enough prize money to bring in new players for finishing 17th, Jerome. This is the problem.
You're talking about the team. Hold on a second, Ryan. You're not talking about.
We're not talking about prize money here, Ryan. Hold on, one second. I'm going to let you talk, but 1 second. You're going on about prize money, but without the prize money, we got Xavi Simons, Kolo Muani, and Kudus. 3 amazing players we've got without your talking prize money. So let's not talk about that. Talk about the game and not talk about finishing 17 and not winning prize money. Oh, you can keep going now.
Right. Well, I will talk about prize money, right, Jerome? Because what to the point, right? No, because this is the reason why we've got shit players still, right? When we finish, if the higher up you finish, thank you, Titan. Tartan, sorry. Look, right, basically, right, the prize money for finishing 17th is nowhere near where if you're finishing in the top 5, 6, 7, 8 places, right? There's a big difference between them 2 spots. And now, if you look at it, yeah, right, when we have when you finish higher up, you can bring in more players because you have much more of a transfer revenue to bring in better players. So you're telling me that you was content with this window, then, were you, Jerome?
So you're telling me the time spent on Morgan Gibbs-White, the debacle with Eze, so all of this nonsense we did during the summer window, and then you're telling me that this is being 17th and prize money, and we waste time. Okay, this is not about finishing 17th. This is not about the prize money. This is not about nothing. We've got enough money to get players to come in and join us. We just waste time. Okay,
Most
let's
of our
let's not
squad
talk about the transfer window, because every time it's the same crap with us. We just waste our time. If we were like Manchester United, Arsenal, and any other team, and just said, "Yeah, there's no money. There, here you go. Put the money on the table, and here's your player," that would have been done quicker. We would have better players quicker. So don't talk about the transfer window, and don't talk about the prize money, because we can bring better players without the prize money, and we showed it already. We had Kudus, Kolo Muani, Xavi, and Paulinho, that made a huge difference with us. So do not talk about the prize money, and do not talk about finishing 17 when we showed we can bring good players where we finish. So this is nonsense. Okay, talk about something else now.
It's not nonsense. It's not nonsense, and I'll tell you why it's not nonsense, right?
It's nonsense.
Right? No, it's not, because did we buy Kolo Muani, or is he on loan?
It doesn't matter. We brought it in. He's our player. He's our player right now, right? He's playing in the Tottenham shirt. Who cares? He's playing for Tottenham. He's playing for Tottenham. He's playing for your team right now. Yeah, he's playing. So we brought him in. We brought him in. He's playing right now. Okay? So it doesn't matter if it's a loan or not. Paulinho is a loan as well. He's playing. Okay? He's a Tottenham player. So we brought those players in. We were able to bring them in, finishing 17. We were able to bring those players in. Why? Because we are in the Champions League. Why? Because we won a trophy. Why? Because we won the Europa League. So quiet down about the nonsense. Okay? Let's just talk. Keep talking. Come on.
No, Jerome, I'm not going to keep quieting down, because I keep hearing this from you week in, week out, mate. Right, and you're telling me, yeah, right? Oh, well, we've got shit players. Well, first of all, right, if we had finished higher, we would have bought the likes of Kolo Muani, and we would have brought in players like Paulinho in, right?
They are in. They are in on how, man.
I don't know how we've gotten onto this, though. Like, we're talking about the Manchester United game and the.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
but this is what I'm saying. Right? And then when you go and when you see the people saying, right, that we should have held out for a win. I don't. The way that I look at it, yeah, right at this point, I'm happy to see him any kind of football, because we're not losing games. Back to you guys. Mic drop.
Well, Stefan, let's get back to the topic here. We're talking about whether Thomas Frank got the lineup right. Plenty of people are defending him for tons of injuries and not a lot of options. Some people feel like he just has to continue with the same people because we need to figure out what works. So, thoughts on the team selection?
Yeah, I think he got it wrong, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know what more I can really add to what's already been spoke about, but
okay.
Yeah, I just feel like
if you want.
Oh no, it's cool. I can see if I can find something. But yeah, I think he should have went with Odegaard, and I think that was shown when he came on. I think he's our best option on the left. But yeah, I agree with what Dave was saying, that the other day I was watching one of the streams, and he said everybody was going on about what a good transfer window it was and stuff. So I don't think it's so much of a quality issue, because if you look at Muani, Xavi, and Simmons, like, you know, they're good players, they're good established players. So how people can say it's just down to quality, it's not. It's down to the way we set up. And I actually have a bit of a concern that if we do end up spending big in January, will Frank just set us up the same? You know, we'll just have the same issues but with better personnel. So I'm a bit skeptical with Frank. I'd like to be proven wrong, but like I said the last time I was on here, a pragmatic manager has never worked at Spurs.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a paradox going on here, right? It's a bit of a paradox with what I'm hearing. We'd be better if Odegaard played, but we wouldn't be better if we got better players. It doesn't actually make sense.
Who said that?
We clearly have a problem. We clearly had a problem on against Man United. You know,
I see what you're saying.
Because we didn't have Kudus. Xavi is looking isolated. Where he is, we need better players. I mean, if you look up front, right? Solanke had his ankle niggle, which is now extended into 3 or 4 months out. You know, it feels like a season that he's been out. Richarlison has dropped off a cliff. Muani, the never injured player, had a month out with a dead leg and has now fractured his freaking jaw, right? The only other option is Scarlett. I mean, none of these things are Frank's fault, right?
No, no one's saying they're his fault, but I think when you've got a player who's in form on the left and you don't start him, questions have got to be asked.
He had one game. He had one decent game, and everybody's saying that's form.
Yeah,
but that's more than anyone else, though.
I'm not.
Yeah, but that's he's got the confidence, Ray. So you need to you still need to play him because the confidence is there.
Should have played the exact same team that he played against Copenhagen, and we would have won that game. And I think that's where the frustration kicks in. But to the point where
Stefan. Exactly what I said.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I lost my train of thought, but yeah, I think I was gonna. I don't know what I was going to say.
The players that we bought in the summer, and I agree with Stefan. I think we had a really good. I think this summer window was a much. I mean, I went to protests about the transfer window for crying out about our transfer approach for crying out loud.
Well, this one.
No, not this one. But I was going to protests at the start of the.
Fair enough.
Because I didn't want us to carry on with our transfer windows in the same way that we always do, which is what Jerome was saying, right? About how we've approached transfers over and yes, we had a different approach this time, but you know what? Our squad is a culmination of multiple windows, of not buying too many promising players and not enough experienced players.
I agree.
Look at some of the experienced players that we bought in the past, like Romero, like Van der Ven, 22, maybe borderline. These guys, hit the ground running. And other players like Doggy has taken some time to build up.
Yeah,
that's been the problem with the way that we've built our squad, and it will take time to fix.
Yeah, but Spurs have done that historically. Like if you look back 10, 15 years ago, we took a gamble on Bale and Lennon and players like that. But the difference is those players come good, and they ended up being, one of them was a world-class player. So it can work the other way. I think it's more to do with his scouting more than anything else. I don't really rate Brennan Johnson, but I don't know whose idea it was to bring him into the club. Obviously, some scout would have.
Ange.
Yeah, well, maybe it was, but I'm not sure how much managers get a say. They would approve players, but for a player to be involved in club discussions, it's probably been going on for like months and months. They would have watched him for like potentially years. So sometimes it's about getting lucky, but you got to look at the recruitment side of it. That's what's really let us down. So you are right, but there's buying young and there's buying really, really young. So. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's out. But I think that the case with Bale is I think everyone kind of knew he was going to be special. But then people have said that about Gray. So you just never know. Sometimes in football, it's all about luck. Like with Harry Kane, it's all about timing. It's all about who you're working under as the manager. And if you got that stability, there's more of a chance of you coming through into the team and making an impact.
What I can say is last season, when we said those players were young and they are prone to mistakes, what we've been told was like once we get a proper coach, he's gonna take out those mistakes out of them, and the narrative change is now saying they are still young, they are gonna make mistakes. Yes, the mistakes are still gonna be there. Like we saw last season, they are gonna make mistakes. They are young players, they are gonna make mistakes, things are gonna happen. But at the same time, the way we are playing football right now is just like it's not great. It's not great. Okay, we have to say it's not great football. Yeah, sure.
Right. For me, what I see, the transfer window for me wasn't too bad considering. But you've got to look at the other side. Those players that are injured would be embedded in the team had they not been, like Kulusevski, Maddison. So those players, young players, would have improved with those experienced players with them. But unfortunately, those experienced players are currently out. So look, the youngsters are going to make mistakes, and unfortunately, as a fan base, we're going to have to live with it until those experienced players are back again.
Look, to me, it's part of football. Mistake happens. It's going to happen. It's fine. as long as they learn from it, and after that they try to keep those mistakes out of it, because the older they become, they will understand things. It's fine. I'm fine with that. But to say last season, what I heard was this team should not be 17th. They are much better to what they are, right? So I'm not taking the narrative of we have a crap team, because that
We should have
team
been higher
showed
than
they
we
can.
were.
Yes, but this team showed they can play good football. They can show it. There are glimpses of this team showing they are a good team. They can do things properly. But whenever we play at home, I don't know what's wrong with them. I don't know what's happened, but they can't play anymore. The way we play is too safe. Is way too safe. Especially at home, we are playing way too safe. We should be able to go a bit more braver and say we're going to go at this team. We are at home. We've got our fans behind us. We should be able to go at
We've got no bite
juggler
at
of
home.
teams and go there.
For whatever reason,
we
whether it's
got nothing. Yeah.
Whether it's Thomas Frank or the players themselves are being cowards, we don't know what's being said in the dressing room. But Thomas Frank has to relay the message to them. At home, we can't be sitting there holding back. Start open those teams up. We show them we're at home, not them, because we're playing. When we're playing at home at the moment, we're playing like the away team.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
this is what's contributing to the fans booing and kicking off, because they're getting frustrated. Seeing when we play from home, we're great. But then as soon as we go to play our home ground, we just a shadow of ourselves. And it shouldn't be like that.
Against
I think
Man
it's
United in the
because-
second half, we actually did go at them against Man United second half. And I'd say, Jerome,
First half we didn't, no. The first half we didn't. It's a 90-minute game.
We were 1-0 down when we started to have a go, because we had to.
Well, but we did. Whether there are
but Ray, we were 1-0 down. You show your intent from the start,
there is no team.
It's a 90-minute game.
100% at the other team.
No, I get what you're saying.
Game.
I get what you're saying, Raym, but you show your intent from the start at home. That's the reality of it. That's why fans are complaining.
Agreed, David.
At home, because at home, and most managers and players would tell you this, it's their fortress. They feel more comfortable at home, and they feel like they can go at teams, with the backing of the crowd and all of that jazz, right? And I get, the crowd and the players and everything else, for whatever reason, there's an emotional disconnect. I get all that. But it's easy to show intent when you're 1-0 down. Spurs fans want to see bravery from the off at home.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Spurs fans can stomach that approach away from home. And to be fair to Frank, that approach quite clearly works well away from home. You look at his record away from home since he's joined. But at home, you have to bring a different approach. And this is where I think Frank has slightly maybe misjudged the Tottenham job slightly, is because I know we conceded a lot under Ange, but I did say, a guy that comes in and puts structure with that back line, it will stop conceding less. I always thought we had good individual quality across that back line. The biggest thing Frank needed to fix was that front line. And that's an area where it still hasn't been fixed despite throwing money at the problem. And it's sort of like, that's where I think he's letting himself down right now, because look, everyone got hyped up beating Burnley and everything else. I sat there and I said, wait until the tough games come around, this tough run of fixtures that we've got coming up. That'll be the true test of this Tottenham team. That'll be true test of, how good we are going forward and stuff like that. And since we've come off the international break, we've won one game. And I think that's where Frank has misjudged the Tottenham job. I think he should have more focused on fixing the forward area problems on the training pitch, because I do think the defenders were good enough anyway, if you give them a bit of structure to be able to go and carry it out. And I think that's where maybe he's let himself down a little bit. Look, hopefully he gets to the January transfer window, they throw more money at him and, stuff like that, and sort of help alleviate the problem and get him to next summer. And let's see if he can build upon that. But I do think he misjudged the Tottenham job in terms of how to approach it when he walked in here personally.
Yeah,
David, can I just say one thing?
I completely agree, and we end up with and a big part of the problem is that we're at Man United. We had Johnson on the right hand side. We had Muani, who clearly should have gone off in the first half. We were left with Richarlison as our only experienced striker, and we're all arguing over whether a 20-year-old Odegaard should start on the left hand side. I completely agree with what Dave said. The front line needed to be sorted out, and we're left scrabbling around. That's where we are.
Yeah,
if you look at the way
Colin,
Sunderland played against Arsenal on that same day, wasn't it? They played the evening game. You could see the intensity right from the very off, that they were right in their faces. And that's what you can tell, that they're a very well organized team, and he set them up perfectly. And bear in mind, they're playing the best team in the league, and they managed to get a draw, and their fans were right behind them, and they're right behind them because they're, they can see that they're having a go.
They're showing intent.
You can't say that Sunderland have got a better squad than what we have. And that's, you've got to take that into account. Sunderland would love to have some of the players that we've got.
I tell you where I've also been a little bit disappointed in terms of Thomas Frank is, I thought, looking at the opposition's weaknesses, because that was a big factor of what he used to do at Brentford, identifying certain areas where we can go and attack after them, where we can get joy going forward. And I just don't see that. I do see all the defensive structure he's put in place. I see what he's trying to do with the midfield and stuff. But up front, I just don't see him even identifying, according to the opposition, where they're most weakest, across that back line, and maybe hammering at that even. And that's where I've been a little bit let down with Thomas Frank as well. I did think that was something that, something that I was led to believe that he was going to bring. And I've been let down in that regard. Defensively, like I said, I don't really have an issue. It's just, I do think with all the, look, there's so much made of all the magnets, the iPads, and everything else.
That's when Dave starts
we
billing.
never actually, for instance, right, in my lineup, I was sort of saying, Shaw and that other idiot down the left-hand side was a huge area of weakness. But I didn't see Tottenham bombard that side. I didn't see them bombard through the middle. I didn't see them bombard through the left. And we haven't really seen it all season. We're just mainly relying on throws and set pieces, and that's not really looking at the opposition where they're weak most and attacking it. That's just sort of, this is what we are, and that's where I've been really let down by Thomas Frank in that regard. Because even if we don't have the best players, at least identify an area of weakness then and go and attack it.
I'm wondering if Sunderland really would be happy with Richarlison up front, Johnson on the right, and Odegaard on the left.
Yeah, but what they would do? He would make them play.
Would he?
Yeah,
maybe he should be given a bigger job than Sunderland if he's that good.
Well, he might be. You never know, but he's doing all right at the moment. But I think another thing is, I don't know what Frank's philosophy is. Like Dave said, if you're concentrating so much on the opposition, where's our plan? What has he implemented? What's his style? I think sometimes, you can be too tactically aware, even though that sounds a bit ridiculous, that you're not, really, showing your strength going forward. So that's a bit of a worry.
When we set up for games at home, it feels like we haven't got a plan. It feels like we're giving them a head start in the race because we got one hand tied behind our back and we're letting them have a 5-minute head start. That's what it feels like when we're playing at home. It doesn't feel it doesn't feel like that feeling when you're thinking, yeah, bring it on, yeah. We're getting in their faces and being like, yeah, bring it. We're at home. You think you're going to trample us at home? I don't think so. We don't have any of that. And that's got to be instilled from Frank. He's got to say to them, listen, boys, we're at home, yeah? You're going to go out and you're going to get at them. When we do attack, make sure you bust a bloody gut and you attack together and you defend together. Why is he not even telling them the basics? We don't have no patterns of play. I watch it and think, what are we even as a team? We're not a counter-attacking team because we're not quick enough. No one's there. What are we as a team? I don't understand what we actually are at the moment.
See, the problem is as well, is like this. It looks like we've got the brakes on at the moment. Frank's put the brakes on us from going forward. It's like he's scared of getting hit on the counter attack. But the thing is, in order for us to score goals, we need to take a risk at least once. Do you know what I mean? Just take that risk, go forward. But it seems like Frank, for whatever reasons, got that fear to keep the brakes on at home. And I can't see the reason why that would be.
It's sad to see, really, because our stadium, it used to be such a fortress. The year we left White Hart Lane, we were unbeaten. And if you look at the last game we played against Man United, I know we had a better team then, granted, but to where we are now, where we can't even buy a win at home, it just makes you think, was the stadium move really worth it? Because we were on the very edge of glory for the biggest prizes. And maybe if we stayed one more year at White Hart Lane, we might have got them over the line. But
that was
Um,
let's be clear. That
I
was
don't know.
that was one exceptional season at home.
Yeah, but-
I've been to many games at White Hart, like the old White Hart Lane, and experienced many games where it was awful.
yeah, of course. But every team can say that, bar like one or two. But even during the 90s, we had some bang average players, but they would always give, like, you could see what the plan was, the intent and everything like that. So I don't know. I just think things have got to improve quickly because the games coming up, they're not going to be easy. So we've got to turn a corner somehow. And I think another frustrating thing is the teams we were playing against, Chelsea and United. Part of the frustration is it because of the opposition. It was a real chance to make a real mark. Because if we had beaten one of those sides, we could be like, there you go, got that win against a top side. Now we can push on. But because we failed those two assignments, we're back to the drawing board, really.
The thing for me is that everybody wanted a coach. Everybody wanted somebody who's going to improve our players, and now everybody wants to win now.
See,
No, but there was
It's
always an
balance, isn't
element
it?
of
It's
having to win.
balance.
There's always an element to having to win, though. It's elite level sports. Managers know this. You listen to any managers doing interviews, they know the pressure's on them to bring results in instantly. There is an element of coaching to it, yes, but you've got to coach and bring results alongside it.
See,
if not, the other alternative is just let him stay in the job no matter how bad we get, because he's coaching and stuff like that. I mean, it's elite level sports. You have to win games alongside it.
yeah, but Dave, right? There's one thing here, yeah, right. When you look at it overall, yeah, we already knew from what Frank had said we are going to lose games, right? And I can accept that we're going to lose games, but we're not going to be losing 26 games like we did last year. Nowhere near. And I've said this, and I've been consistent from the day that Frank's been in. Have I or have I not, Dave? When I have said he needs time. And that's why I'm giving him a free pass. And people can keep coming at me, and I really couldn't care. But at the end of the day, right, I'm looking at it like this, right? We need to give him the time, right? He's only been in the job, 3-4 months, right? He's already said he's been open and honest when he has said we are going to lose games.
Yeah,
so
no,
why
I-
can't
I don't
why
think-
can't he take
No,
that?
I get
Ryan,
that.
I
I get
don't
that.
think.
It just
Sorry.
feels like I'm nowhere near Frank out yet. But it feels like whenever I bring up something that Frank needs to improve on to help his cause, it almost feels like people are straight away going, but you got to give him time and stuff like that. At the end of the day, results by time, results by buy-in, results by belief. You're winning games, no one gives a fuck. That's just the reality of it. At the end of the day, though, when it comes to Thomas Frank, he's not a guy that has a miraculous CV behind him. So people are going to naturally give him less time. When you don't have that sort of CV behind you, then what they give another managers. Look what Spurs fans done to Nuno. Fans can sit here and call for time all they want. Nuno was chased out of the football club within 3 months.
I thought that was awful as well.
The reason being, results dropped off. And the reality is, I'm not being funny, but the likes of Jerome was sitting on here weeks ago telling us that this was going to happen. And the thing is, everyone could see it. What we were doing was never going to be sustainable when the harder teams come along. And now they've come along. Frank has to find a way of getting at least a couple of results. A lot of the stats that people were banding about earlier on the season, goals from open play. We've scored one from open play since international break. We've won one game since the last international break. The reality is, he's coming into a tricky period now. And when I bring up that he has to get more out of this forward line, and he can't just solely rely on set pieces. Set pieces is a good weapon. You still have to pose other threats to be able to go and win games. Because like we've seen, when your set pieces aren't being delivered of the quality that they were earlier on in the season, against Chelsea, Man United, you become completely irrelevant. You don't pose a threat whatsoever, which shows you have to have other avenues to be able to go and win games. And the reality is, we're not seeing that right now, and things are only looking worse and worse and worse. We create barely any chances in the last couple of weeks, and it's getting a sore on people's eyes, and that's where the question marks are coming around. But to be honest with you, I don't really see a lot of Frank out anywhere, but I do see people question it, and they're right they're well within their reason to question what's going on. At the end of the day, Spurs fans are charged some of the highest prices to watch the football club, to buy merchandise and stuff like that. When they're paying them prices, that brings demands. That puts pressure on everybody. But it seems like nobody in the club wants that sort of pressure. No one in the club can thrive under that sort of pressure. I'm absolutely fed up with it. The manager now has to start standing up. The players have to start standing up. I'm fed up with it.
You're starting to sound a bit. A bit like an ex-manager of ours, Dave.
Yeah.
He's listening to so many manager podcasts. He's sounding just like one.
And during that little rant, that ex-manager, who it said very similar things. Where you said, and who is the person who's always changed? The manager. So one person's always questioned.
Levy's gone now.
I think always questioned. The problem that we've got is we need better players. We need better depth. We need to be able to deal with when everyone was going on about we have to loan out all of these players, all of these half decent youngsters we've got who might be good, might not be good, right? And we have to loan them out. And some of us were on streams going, whoa. This is Tottenham Hotspur you're talking about. They're going to get game time. Here we are. On the weekend, we had two youngsters who I'd never heard of on the bench, right? I don't know if you'd heard of them. I'd never heard of those two youngsters. I think they must be under 18s.
I do agree with that point, but it always goes back to the end of the day. No manager was just given time. Results produce time, and that's what it comes back to at the end of the day. People can sit there and put their flags in. Results will dictate the time that Thomas Frank gets. But I think the problem that Thomas Frank has is people look at the club he's managed beforehand, Brentford. They look at his CV before that even. They look at the history on his CV, and with someone like Thomas Frank, when he doesn't have the list of honours to his name or he hasn't been in top jobs, people question it quicker than what they would at Jose, at Conte, for instance. Because with them, they believe that they will get it right. People sit here and say Frank needs time. The quality of the forward line is crap. It was crap last season, yes, but he was given kudos. He's been given Xavi Simons. Has he got the best out of them? I think there's fair questions to be asked around that, and I think that's where the question marks come in. If he hasn't been in a job of this magnitude before, and he hasn't had a fixture schedule of this magnitude before, he is learning on the job, and it just comes to your individual thoughts, whether you really back the guy, whether you really back the underdog to prevail through it all and really kick on, or whether you sort of don't believe in it. And I think that's where people are at right now. That's where, like, someone like me, I never really believed in it in the first place when we signed them. That's why, it was up to him to drag me along. But don't get me wrong, there are things like the way he handles the press, I think, is absolutely exceptional. I like his personality and stuff like that. But one big question I had was that forward line. I said in one of my videos I put out, he was going to bring in set pieces. He was going to maximize us there, which puts extra points on the board. He was going to make us better defensively, which puts a few extra points on the board. But the big thing for him to sort out was that forward line. And I'm still waiting. And to be honest with you, it's looking like it's getting worse and worse and worse as the games go on. And that's where I'm still waiting to be one round and really convinced. And I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
As we lose players.
I want to say,
yeah.
I think Thomas Frank needs to be, and I know this is not good, but he's going to need to be our Mikel Arteta. He needs to stay at that club so long. Yeah. Where did we give him time? And I think he could be something like that for us.
But we have to see something there, some encouragement.
Yeah, but how long did they take for Arteta to show what he?
Yeah, but the difference is you could see the way they were playing. There was a style to it. What we're doing at the moment is nothing.
It's so early still. It's only fair. 3 days in, basically. So I still.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think a lot of people who are saying who people think are frank out. They're not really frank out. They're just maybe skeptical, like I am. I just want to see him from my own eyes, just what he can bring to our club, and I've still yet to see that. So I'm just waiting.
I
Sure, but
honestly
also-
think.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
man.
Sorry, Ben. I
No,
mean,
you
I honestly think that if we saw improvements, especially at home, where we could see something and we can see it consistently, I think that would make fans feel a little bit more like, okay, we can see something. I think it's the fact that we can't actually see what he's implementing, especially at home. It feels like, I said, like, what are we? And it doesn't feel like we're really going for it. It doesn't feel like, I say, we're counter attack it. No, like, it doesn't feel like anything. So I think if that happened, I think that fans wouldn't be on his back as much. And I don't think anybody here is saying frank out. So I think that it's okay to say we've got like little things that we think that he needs to do better at. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that that's fine. None of us are saying frank out. Not for 1 second am I saying frank out. I think we need to give him time. Absolutely. But I'm also, on the other hand, want to see improvement, especially at home. I don't want to go to home games now. I'm literally going, do I want to spend 8 hours at my house where it's warmer to go out in the freezing cold, the horrible weather, to go and watch that? Not particularly, like it's not good. Like, you don't want to feel like that.
Totally.
Yeah. No, look, I agree. I agree also with Daniel was saying. Yeah, I know it's not a very popular thing to say, but yeah, I do agree with Daniel. We should give him time. He should be our Arteta, technically, because there are glimpses, but the style that he plays sometimes is good. There's good glimpses. It's just at home, for some reason, we play too safe. We do it too safe. Maybe he's thinking he can't. He just don't want to lose games. He's just happy with draws, so that he doesn't piss off the fans or something like that. But show intent. At home, he needs to show intent. That's all we're asking. We're not saying frank out. We're not saying anything like that. I believe the guy can do good things in this club, but he has to show intent at home. We need to show braver football, and we need to show we are going at teams, because right now, every single time at home, we are way too defensive and way too safe. And this is what is really annoying about this. But again, I'm not saying frank out. I'm saying we give the guy time. Again, he could do amazing things with this club, but he needs to improve at home. Rose needs to improve a lot, and it has to be done fast, because fans are not patient. Like you all know, we are not patient. We have been struggling last season with all the losses, and now if we come again at home and we're not performing and we're losing games without even showing intent we want to score, they are not going to give him time. They are going to be on his back really fast. So he has to improve on that. That's the only thing I said he has to improve on. The performance at home. Anything else, I don't mind. Even if he lose game, I don't mind, because as show me intent that you want to win that game. Show me intent that you want to score goals. And that I'm happy with. Even though we're going to go, that's unlucky. We lost that game, but we did deserve to win. That Manchester United game, I can tell you already, if we won that, I would have said this was a robbery, because we did not deserve to win that game at all. If a draw is a fair score, because again, both teams were rubbish. So
I don't think Man United. I don't think Man United actually created that much.
They didn't.
No, they
Both
didn't.
teams
They didn't.
cancelled each other
They
out.
didn't.
Yeah,
They had 2 shots, 2 goals. That's it.
Yeah,
Two shots, 2 goals.
They scored from what I think was a Sarr mistake, and Van de Ven. I don't know. I've said it before on stream, and nobody's actually confirmed it or not. Van de Ven had a massive go at Sarr after the game.
Yeah,
right in front.
Yeah, he did.
Massive,
he did.
go at him. And it was quite visible. It was quite noticeable afterwards that whenever Van de Ven got the ball, he was just clearing it. He was just like, I've had enough of this tippy tappy stuff. I'm just gonna clear it up, which I'm all in for, by the way. And their second goal, I mean, why? And this is something that maybe Frank, needs to be asked of Frank and his coaching team. why Johnson is marking De Ligt. And he was marking him the whole game, by the way, because you remember in the first half, there was that altercation between De Ligt and Johnson ended up on the floor and ended up getting a yellow card.
Yeah.
From a point. That was like, why is Johnson marking De Ligt? Because De Ligt's a beast. He's a big guy when you see him in person as well. You know, I remember him at Ajax and he looked quite slight. He's a big guy. Why Johnson is marking De Ligt on the back post? Because as soon as De Ligt got up, you know, Vicario had no chance. That was as long as that was on target. Unless it went directly at, you know, a part of Vicario's body, it was going in. And De Ligt, it was absolutely clinical. So I thought we did okay with what Frank had available.
Well, it was better than what shown against Chelsea, but then that bar wasn't very high, was it? I think it just comes down to, like, you know, how you see the game as a fan as well. Like to me personally, I love Tottenham's history. Like I do a lot of like reading up on the 60s team and everything like that. So I'm a bit of romantic from that. But there's a Danny Blanchflower quote that you might be familiar with, that it is, the game is about glory. It is about doing things in style and with a flourish, about going out and beating that other lot, not waiting for them to die of boredom. And that's what I feel like we're doing a lot, the last bit of that, not waiting for them to die of boredom.
Look, Stefan, I get where you're coming from with that, yeah? Right? Where you
Danny Blanchflower, one of our legends,
yeah,
not me.
I get where you're coming from, right? Where you're saying about like the free flowing, attacking, sexy, whatever you want to kind of call it, football, yeah? I get that.
Yeah.
Right. But first of all, we don't have the players to do that. We haven't, and it comes back to what I said earlier to Jerome, and I'm not going to repeat myself because Jerome knows what I said about the league position and everything, and I'm not going to repeat myself, but I want to see that as well, right? Really, I do.
Yeah,
but we don't have the players, and I believe if we give Frank time, right, the whole season where he has to do what he has to do to get that backline sorted, bring in his own players, give him until the beginning of next season after the window's closed and everything, see who he brings in for his front line, and then if we're playing that kind of football that we all will, I like to see and that you like to see, right, then hey, it's happy days. If we have to go through this year of ups and downs and having inconsistencies, come on guys, can't we at least like accept that for 1 year and then literally move forward?
I agree with that to an extent, but I think, like Mia said, we just want to see a glimpse. So even a glimpse, we can kind of grab onto that and be like, oh, I see what you're trying to do there. It didn't quite work out because the quality of the player. But the fact that we're just relying on set pieces, and we're not the only team in the league that's doing it. It might be just the way the game is going. But
it could be. But then don't you think though, Stefan, and I'll ask you this, because like where you say we haven't seen a glimpse of it, but don't you think we saw in the second half of the Copenhagen game that we saw?
For sure. That was the most encouraging. That was the most encouraging performance, and that was my favorite game of the season by far. And I know Copenhagen, but they were so open. I mean, you look what Van de Ven did. He would never do that against a Premier League side, because Copenhagen were just so open. But that was really encouraging.
Man United last season.
He did
that. No, that's true, but he didn't go on to then score, did he?
He scored against Everton, but he laid it off to Sonny.
But then that's what I'm saying, Stefan, right? So we are kind of seeing glimpses, but we're not seeing it like...
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Do you know what I mean?
But yeah, I think in the Premier League, we kind of want to see it, though. That's the thing against...
You want to see improvement week by week.
But that's a fair point.
Yeah, but look, the thing is, what we're going to give Frank is... Oh, sorry, Ray. Go on.
Can I explain the difference between us and Chelsea? Right? We're arguing about whether a 20-year-old Odegaard, who we bought from relegated Burnley, should be starting at left wing. Chelsea are bringing their 19-year-old Brazilian superstar Estevão on for 15 minutes of every game to bed him in, and Gittins on the other side, 15 minutes of every single game. and they're just quietly bedding them in. Yeah, 10, 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes a game. If they were playing for us, they would be starting because we haven't got anybody else.
That's
Whereas
true.
Chelsea have got.
You're comparing us to Chelsea, but you've got to remember one thing: Chelsea's team have enough players to do that at this moment in time. We have not got those players to do that, so we've either got to go with our strongest 11 or make sacrifices. Whereas Chelsea have got enough players to say, "Okay, that player's injured, we can bring another one in, no problem." So we can't compare ourselves,
and we can't
We don't have many left wingers.
But
you can't compare us to Chelsea. You can't compare us to
Chelsea, but they're still inconsistent with doing that.
Yeah,
so they're
I
not
agree.
they're still inconsistent, man. Because you just said like young players, they're going to make mistakes, but you're advocating for having young players and not send them out on loan, and we would have had the same issue with them being inconsistent. You have to play your players that you know are proven to be able to be good. Like players like Odebert, he looks like he's improving. He played a good game when he's got confidence. You need to keep playing him because he's got experience. Where these youngsters, they haven't got that experience, and that's why Chelsea are inconsistent as well. So.
Yeah, the saddest thing about that Chelsea game is that they're not going to get an easier game this season. I mean, I know it was only 1-0, but we just didn't do a single thing. They're not going to get an easier game. They could play a League Two side in the Championship, and they'd be tougher opposition than what we were. And that's the thing. That's when it comes back down to it. Application and effort. We're not seeing that.
Chelsea had.
We see it as one-off. We see it as a one-off. Yeah, that we'll have glimpses of greatness from the team, like we did against Copenhagen, probably against Man City earlier in the season. We just see maybe one or two snippets of great football. Then it's back to why are we watching the same thing over and over again? But at the end of the day, yeah, me, I'm not Frank out by any means. I'll say give him to the end of the season as well to see how he beds the team. But at the moment, as I said, with those injuries as well, I can't see us getting any more positive until some of those players are back from injury.
Chelsea had 200
absolutely.
Chelsea had £200 million worth of central midfielders, two of them.
And Wolves scored 4 past them the game before.
Playing against us. Caicedo and Enzo, both of them would start in our central midfield.
Yeah, of course they
both
would.
incredible players.
But you've got to give them a game. Every team's got good players. You have to give them a game.
Yeah, but people are having a meltdown about a draw against Manchester United and a loss against Chelsea.
It's the context.
And
it's not a meltdown, Ray.
Not the case.
What you're missing, Ray,
it's not a meltdown, Ray.
Look, in my whole lifetime, we've lost to Chelsea. We've lost many games to Man United. That's not the problem. It's the intent you've shown in them games. You know, that is the problem. We set up not to lose and end up losing to Chelsea. We set up not to lose against Man United and end up dropping 3 points, you know, right at the depth. The reality is, but the way we approach them games is where many fans are questioning it. And that's the point you're not taking into account. And that Chelsea team,
go at home.
as much as they've spent on that team, then what's our excuse then for that draw against Bodo Glimt to have spent a lot less money and have a lot less resources than us? So I don't buy the money excuse. The reality is that Chelsea team is also nowhere near the Chelsea team that other Tottenham teams have come up against in the past, where they have been impenetrable, where they have won, you know, everything going. This Chelsea team is far from that. But the reality is it's the intent we've shown going into them games.
Everybody knows that Bodo Glimt are no pushovers. And we were
but if you're going to make the point about how much Chelsea have spent, then what's our excuse in some of the teams we've lost?
We can't talk about Bodo Glimt as though they're a non-league team.
No, but Ray, my point is, you're bringing up how much Chelsea have spent and trying to say that's why we've lost. But then what's our excuses to some of the teams we've lost to then?
No, I'm saying that I'm saying that when people are having a collective meltdown about the last 2 home games, that it's very easy for me to sit here and say, well, what about this? And nobody is arguing with me. Nobody is arguing with me whatsoever. Everybody's going, yeah. But I want to see more attacking intent. Well, do you know what?
That's because we're polite.
We had attacking. Oh, so you do disagree with me that Gittins and Esteval being played for 15 minutes at the end of Chelsea games to get them to bed in is something that is a good thing, whereas and something that we don't have.
Good, but you're not.
But Ray,
you're moving away from the point. Though. The point is, we're not laying a glove on Chelsea.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Stefan. We had 0.05 XG against Chelsea. The only thing we had to do in this game was like, they're not doing anything. So let's just put our youngsters. Let's just put our stars like Esteban. Let's give him 15 minutes to bed in because this team is not going to threaten us. We're not doing anything.
Yeah,
That's the only thing. That's the problem we
honestly, like when we used to play Arsenal when they were going for the title, we had some of the most bang average players, but we would always turn up. And they had like Henry and Pires and Bergkamp like that. And sometimes we get like a 2-2 draw. I remember a 4-4 draw at White Hart Lane.
Yeah.
We didn't
That
have a
is
side.
Screamer.
We didn't have a side that could compete on their level whatsoever.
Yeah,
But those
look,
players,
but
they knew
Stefan,
it was a derby and they turned up. And that's the thing. If those players put in the application and the effort and they were set up the right way, we could have given them a game. But it's a wasted opportunity. And I don't think it's a meltdown. I think it's just frustration.
see, for me,
it's
I don't care
frustration.
that we lost to Chelsea because I've seen us lose to Chelsea many, many times. I've seen us lose to Chelsea. What bothers me about that Chelsea game is that we didn't put no intent in that game whatsoever. We just lay down and let them walk straight through us. Because for me, if we lose to Arsenal, if we lose to Man City, if we lose to Liverpool, and we put a bit of intent into that game, I'll be like, yeah, okay, we lost, hands up. But we put intent in there to show we can at least attempt to do something. But for us to lie down at home to the likes of Chelsea, for me, that was just the most unforgivable performance I could ever actually witness to see. That's me personally.
And then the thing is, after their
I've seen-
players are like training ground, posts on Instagram, their players fucking training ground. Oh, this is just another training session. Fucking hell.
Yeah, and
Honestly.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't perform myself that greatest that week. I'll try harder next week. So great, you'll play great against Copenhagen, then just drop off against Man United. Well done.
Can I just
See, look-
answer something that David Clark just posted? He said any fan should give a manager full windows. Yeah, I went and did some analysis, right? And David's like me, he's an old man. And in the first decade of the Premier League, the average manager tenure was just over 2.5 years. They basically got full windows before on average before they got sacked. The average tenure over the last 10 years has been just under 1.5. It's just over 1. And I just think it's bonkers. And I think we've all bought into it. We've all bought into this instantaneous thing. And then we've got an example down the road where they didn't buy into it, where they didn't give in to the we have to win now. If we're not winning, there's a problem. Yeah, they didn't give into it, and now they're going for the title.
Ray, the thing is, what you don't understand is you're saying we're not giving into it and things like that. But the fans, they were not happy with the man. Every
Mikel Arteta
single
wanted
time
FA
you can
Cup.
hear they want Mikel Arteta out because they're not winning anything. Arsenal fans have seen.
No, the fans would have
sorry,
sacked Mikel Arteta 3 times
Yeah, the
over.
fans
would.
would. But the reality is, Mikel Arteta did win an FA Cup, and that's what sort of bought him that time at the end of the day. It wasn't just afforded to him by the board out of nowhere. He won an FA Cup.
I think it is down to though the owners do give in to media pressure and fan pressure eventually. Like they if there's enough negative attention around.
Though, Jack. The owners have set the precedent because they'd rather replace a manager because it's cheaper than it is to fix the issues in the squad. You know, the way they see it. And, you know, at the end of the day, the way they see it is I'm employing you to get the best out of what I've got. You weren't complaining, you know, when I gave you the job. Now, all of a sudden, this is an issue, that's an issue and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, the owners sort of created that precedent. But I think the big thing that everyone misses with Mikel Arteta is he won the FA Cup, you know, in his first half of stint, you know, and that's what bought him the time from the board at the end of the day.
I think
you're more out of that squad than what other managers were previous.
I think you're dead on, but I think to Rain Man's point, like the reason they are getting sacked so quickly is because it is cheaper just to sack the manager.
Yes.
But then at the same time, you also whatever negative attention might have been surrounding around the club all of a sudden gets wiped away because you've gotten rid of the manager. So then you kind of buy yourself as the owner that time where you can just sort of start over again. But the issue is that maybe to the point of sticking with someone, if you haven't really changed the squad all that much, you're probably just going to watch the next manager eventually just go down the same route of also then getting sacked within a year and a half or so. So you have to give somebody some sort of patience or time.
Yeah,
I think they were
agree.
willing to do that. They were willing to do that
Yeah.
with Ange. It looked like it was just, the results got to such a toxic level that, they felt like they inevitably had to do it. And Thomas Frank could be the same thing. It seems like they're looking to give him time, but if the results eventually reach such a toxic boiling point with the fan base, then they're going to give in like every other establishment do.
Yeah, but
I
Jack,
believe it's like
the problem is with this, Jack. Yeah, right. Is I don't try. I'm with Dermo on this. Yeah, right, Jack. Right, and I agree with him. You got to keep this manager in and give him the time, right? And he'll probably only get 2 years, but is that really enough time to actually turn around and say, well, we've given him time? Look at Arsenal. They've given Arteta God knows how much time. What, 7, 8 years? Right? That's more than
He
enough
won an
time.
FA Cup.
I get that, Dave. Right? He's won them an FA Cup, but that's the only thing they've won in his 8 years
That's
there,
what
right?
brought him
And that was right at the beginning, Dave. Right? So to be honest, then why if Arsenal can give someone like Arteta 8 years, we should do the same with Frank.
Well, we can't just give him a
the thing
contract
is,
to say
no,
done.
I think what no one is understanding on this panel is no one here right now, no one is saying Frank out. We all saying the same thing. Give him time. And we all said we are going to give him time. The only thing we said is at home, be brave. Show us that you have intent, ambition. You want to win games at home, not just go happy with draws. I think everybody here, even you over YouTube channels, the thing is the same with them. It's like, give the guy time, but at home, just don't be happy to just get a draw. Go for a win. Try, go, be brave. Just the same way as you did with Copenhagen. Do the same thing against Manchester United and not be like how we played against Chelsea. But no, we did the same thing. So that's what we're saying. Fix this, and I'm telling you, everybody's going to be behind this man 100%. Because again, like Chris said, everybody said, we saw glimpses of what he can do with his team. And he can do great things. I believe he will do great things with his team, giving him time and giving, like you said, giving him the players he needs as well. He can achieve things. But right now, he's playing it too safe. And being too safe is not good for him. Because fans are not going to give him time at all.
By no means is anybody saying sack Frank by Christmas. No one is saying that. No one is saying that at all. Everybody's saying give him a chance, which is the fair thing to do. Give him a season, give him the whole season, let him see if he can get some more players in January and bet them into and see what happens. Yeah? No one is saying, just being Frank off now, because it'll be a pointless exercise because we'll be back at square one again. But at the end of the day, your home form has to be your home is your fortress. No one enters your fortress. And at the moment, Frank's not doing that. He's leaving the drawbridge half open for other teams to come in. And at times, at home, we're feeling like the away team, which is what a lot of frustration with the supporters are with Frank at the moment, right? So no one is saying being Frank off by any means, shapes or form, because that's not the case.
That's what it feels like to me at the moment. That's what it feels like to me, that there's certain parts of the fan base that are saying, I can't say it's anybody on the panel, but there are people that are already saying, get Thomas Frank out. And it's
That's ridiculous.
Ryan, there are people there are plenty of fans who say ridiculous things. Like you say, you want Levy back. There are tons of ridiculous things.
Exactly.
We all have absurd opinions. Let's wrap up.
At the end,
or go ahead.
Yeah, just quickly to wrap it up. I think at the end of the day, what Thomas Frank should be judged on is what we hired him for. Was
results.
Come in, coach a team, make the players look better and stuff like that, which will ultimately end up bringing results. If that doesn't happen, but then you got to question: is it going according to plan? Is he getting these ideas across? But at the end of the day, you got to give him a bit more time. I think anyone that's Frank out now is, I think, maybe had an agenda
from the
very beginning or whatever. I think you're jumping the gun. I do think you have to give it time. But at the end of the day, he was brought in to improve our players. So anyone that's sitting there saying we've got shit players, you're the very same people that were sitting there and saying he's a coach, he'll get better out of them, he'll improve them and stuff like that. And if he's not doing that, then maybe he's failing in the job. But it's far too early to judge, but I think it's fair to ask questions. But look, we'll take this from Danny Kiriakou, and then we will start wrapping it up. Danny Kiriakou says, I want to ask everyone on the panel except Kudus, how many of our attackers and midfielders except Paulinho get into the top 10 teams? He says, none. I think that's harsh. I think Bentancur gets into some of the top 10 teams. I think Muani gets into some of the top 10 teams. I think Simi gets into some of the top 10 teams.
Star.
Yeah,
Kudus,
Yeah.
that's like
Kudus
most of the
doesn't.
team.
I got a big. What's it called? I don't know what it's called, but I think Kudus is a bit overrated, to be honest.
Daniel, you just hurt me, man. That's hurt.
No, but
I actually do like
the way
Kudus.
we talk about him. I love it. Like he's a great dribbler, but the way we talk about him, it's like he's got for like 6 goals and 10 assists.
Yeah, but Daniel, there's been games this season where that guy has actually carried our team. And you know what? You can see the drop off on that side. Now he's injured. That it's with Kudus, you still have that extra bit in the tank with it, so to speak. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm just saying. I still think he's excellent, but I still think he's just a bit overrated at this
No.
time.
He still gets into a top team.
I think you're both right. I think he's excellent for us, but would he be excellent for Man City? I think Daniel. I think you're spot on.
But he said top 10, not top 2.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, top 10, that includes Brighton, Bournemouth, Palace, right?
Yeah, he gets into their teams.
Can I just say, right? I agree with Danny here, right? And like, none of our players. I don't know if anyone's. And I've heard what you're all saying, that people like Bentancur, Son, they don't get into any of the top 10. None of them.
Oh, come off it, Ryan. That's ridiculous, mate. Come on. Now, Paulinho walks straight into Palace's team. Paulinho walks straight into Brighton's team. Paulinho will walk into a lot of those teams in around the top 10.
Yeah,
but this is where Ryan loses me, because last year is of the opinion the squad is better than what it's showing. Now he's of the opinion it's worse, even though Frank has been given more help in the transfer window than any other manager previously in terms of the quality that we've tried to sign and stuff like that. That's where you lose me on that regard. I understand your point of view, but I also think there's a bit of fairness and a bit of balance to be brought to the discussion. Like, look, everything's not rosy. Us fans wouldn't be sitting here airing their concerns, at the end of the day. And I think, just to sum it up tonight, I don't think anyone's sitting here saying, and look, no one sat here and said Frank out. Nobody. But I think it's fair to say things aren't exactly going according to plan. And, there are areas that Frank needs to fix, if he wants to continue, challenging for a European spot in the league and stuff like that. And, I think that's what tonight has been about. But look, we will call it an evening now. I want to say a massive thank you to everybody, for coming on today. You actually made Man Jack's job easy today.
You guys ran the show pretty well.
Fuck all today, which has been absolutely great. You guys have carried it. So massive thank you in that regard. A massive thank you to everybody at home as well in the chat, putting in your opinions all evening long. And a massive thank you to Danny as well for the support, my man. And yeah, look, Jack, anything you want to say?
No, I thought I was going to say the exact same thing. I think everyone actually carried the stream, to be fair. And I think a lot of people actually got their say in, it wasn't really dominated by anybody as well. Pretty fair from everybody involved. Teams we want to compete with. Look, I mean, I'm in the boat where maybe I've kind of have felt that the team really isn't as good as we think, both last season and this season. And I didn't really expect Thomas Frank to change the forward line and improve it all that much. I think the one thing I knew he was going to improve was the defense. I knew that the defense was a lot better than it was made out to be last season. Last season, they were made to look like absolute idiots, when I felt like our back line is actually one of the strongest ones in the Premier League, and it was made to look poor. But I've never rated this forward line as much as I do rate Kudus, as much as I do rate some of our midfielders. I don't really rate Kolo Muani's only been in for a few games. Solanke's not been available this entire season. I don't rate Richarlison. I don't rate Johnson. I root for Odegaard because I like Odegaard, but do I put him in the top 10? Probably not.
No. Yeah.
Matisse Tell, the same thing. So when it comes to the forward line, I would agree with Danny's point. When it comes to the midfield, I don't think the midfield is as much of an issue as people make it out to be personally. I don't think Bentancur is as bad as people say he is. I think Sarr is great. I think Bergvall can be great. I think Simmons will be good. I think the midfield really isn't the problem. The midfield only can get stronger too because you have Madison, Kulusevski that will come back into the team. So for me, and I've been probably pretty consistent about this, I've always felt like the forward line is very, very poor for the most part. But then the rest of the team, I don't think is really that bad. So I guess that helps in Frank's favor and supporting him, but also goes slightly against him at the same time, and that he should be able to do at least a bit more with certain areas of the pitch, midfield especially. Like midfield should be playing better than I think it actually is. The forward line, I have a lot of sympathy for him. I know Davis said Richarlison and Johnson scored plenty of goals last season under Ange. I think that's just exceptional work by Ange Postecoglou, but I wouldn't really hold that towards Frank because I've seen Richarlison with more chances than I can count now at this stage. How many times have we seen it just go through his legs, on back post sort of chances and headers he's even missing now. He used to be great in the air and he can't even win a header anymore. I don't think that's down to Thomas Frank. I think that's just down to Richarlison being shit, really.
Agreed.
But yeah, just answering Danny Kiriakou there as we're wrapping things up. Maybe we can do just around the panel one last final.
That really hurt, didn't it, Jack? That really hurt to say that about Richarlison.
I think he's gone from a guy that I really rooted for last season under Ange to a guy that's really pissed me off, to be honest, this season, because I think he's just been woeful, really. And I used to really like the guy.
Danny mentioned earlier a comment I saw in the chat. He said that Richarlison was my favourite player. Let's get one thing right, Mr. Kiriakou. I have never ever once said Richarlison's my favourite player. So I know Harry Winks was your favourite player back in the day, Danny, but that ain't my style, yeah. So remember one thing, yeah. Richarlison for me, if we sell him in the January windows, I'll probably be relieved because to be honest with you, he's not good. He's just dropped off a cliff. He had two good games for us, and then he's just disappeared off the face of the earth.
If he scores the winner in North London Derby, he'll be everyone's favourite player.
No, he won't. Still, with David, he's had too many games where he's had so many easy chances, and I think the final straw was for me against Copenhagen last week, where he took the ball off Scarlett and then goes and hits the crossbar with a penalty, and I'm like, should have just let Scarlett take it.
Yeah,
don't be greedy.
I wouldn't listen to Danny anyway. He's a bloody flip flop.
Yeah, I know.
Mic drop from Chris though. I'll probably wrap it up by saying Frank could get more of the midfield because I looked at Bentancur's numbers last season under Ange. He was one of the best in the Premier League when it came to progressing the ball. And I wouldn't say last season that was a narrative with Bentancur about him passing sideways or backwards. No one really seemed to say that until now under Thomas Frank. All of a sudden, that's what everybody's saying. So it must be a Thomas Frank instruction.
Yeah, but Jack,
for him
if
to
he's
pass
passing
sideways
backwards,
and like they're saying with Bielsa, with the Uruguay team, I've seen him play for the Uruguay team. He's running the midfield, so it must be more a Thomas Frank thing than a Bentancur thing.
Jack, for you saying he's playing passing backwards only, where are actually the passes to get him to play forward? Because 9 times out of 10, there's no player in front of him for him to pass to. So where else is he going to pass the ball?
Yeah,
that's fair too.
I think that's definitely fair to ask of Simmons. I do think Bentancur is a bit further back and has options. But what I will say is, he has played some progressive passes last couple of games, and no one's whipped out the pass map because it doesn't suit the agenda. So anyway, we're going to leave it there.
We'll leave it there.
We'll see you all back here tomorrow. It'll be me and Jack with the Kildare Spurs. And we're going to talk a little bit about new arrival coming January, Mason Melia. But don't get your hopes up. He is not the answer just yet.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
Yeah. More bodies, maybe less solutions, but more bodies. Come on, you Spurs.
I'm playing FIFA and Richarlison just scored, by the way.